Hey, I'm Becca and today I'm going to be talking about living with ulcerative colitis. When I first started making videos again, I knew this was something I wanted to cover. In August 2016, I was diagnosed with an incurable, lifelong autoimmune disease called ulcerative colitis. It's grouped into something called inflammatory bowel disease. The other more well-known one is Crohn's disease. So in this video I'm going to talk about 10 things that I deal with on a day-to-day basis living with ulcerative colitis. Number 1. Unpredictability. It is unbelievable how things can change in an instant. I can have a day where I feel totally fine. I still have some symptoms, but I can go about my day-to-day with minimal pain. I feel like a normal person for a short while, and then all of a sudden I get hit with a bag of bricks. I can't leave my bed, I can't leave the house because I have to go to the toilet too much. I'm in an unreal amount of pain. I have to take a higher dose of painkillers to deal with it, and just overall unpleasant symptoms. It's difficult living with unpredictability because it means that you can't really make plans, or a lot of the time you can't see plans through. Birthdays in particular can become quite difficult because you worry about whether you're going to be able to make it that day, especially when it gets to bigger events like weddings, holidays, weekends away. You can't guarantee that you're going to be well enough to deal with that. And I think for friends and family that also can become quite difficult because they don't always understand how difficult it can be, and that's not necessarily their fault. It's just because they don't have to live with that on a day-to-day basis. I started a new job and by this point I was already diagnosed, and it was so unpredictable, and I was being quite I was just kind of like pushing through at work, which kind of made it worse. And the reason I felt like I needed to just push through was because unfortunately my boss was being quite difficult about it. I was actually once accused of faking my illness, which was very unpleasant, and as you can imagine I didn't stay there very long. Number 2 is unpleasant medication. I have to take around 6 medications every single day just to kind of feel fairly normal, and they don't always work as well. So there's some days where it doesn't matter how many meds I take, it just doesn't help. I think the worst medication for me personally is steroids. I not only have to take steroids regularly, at least when I'm on my worst days. The medication I have to take up my bottom. And because I've been taking it for so long, I feel a lot more open talking about it. I feel like we need to talk more about the bottom area I have to squirt. Prednisolone foam enemas up my bum every day, and I also have to take suppositories every day. It's horrible, it's unpleasant, it hurts because of how inflamed and ulcerated my insides are, it stings. Not to mention the side effects like mood swings, moon face, weight gain, struggling with weight, and that's just a small part of the medication I take as well. Not to mention what other people with this condition have to take. Some people have to take IV steroids, infusions, immunosuppressant, daily injections like Humira. I've seen some very unpleasant things online, and I'm so glad that my condition isn't that bad. Number 3 is just the general lack of awareness and understanding around these conditions. Not a lot of people realise how severe they are, and that they are incurable and lifelong. Unfortunately, it's very often confused with irritable bowel syndrome, and I'm not trying to say that irritable bowel syndrome isn't a horrible disease, because that's also very unpleasant to have. I know people with that condition and it has very difficult symptoms to deal with. But inflammatory bowel disease has lasting damage and actual physical, what is the word? It has physical like attributes to it inside the colon. So there is scarring, ulceration, bleeding. It's generally known as being more painful, and that's not to say that irritable bowel syndrome isn't painful. It's just they have different treatments, and if left untreated, IBD, which is inflammatory bowel disease, can have fatal effects, and it can lead to very life-threatening conditions as well. Like I said before, I was accused of faking this illness by colleagues at work, and by my boss, which was infuriating when some days you literally can't leave your bed. To which I told them they are more than welcome to contact not only my GP, who I have a very good relationship with, but my specialist consultant and my specialist nurse at the GI department in the hospital, who I see also extremely regularly. Things got so difficult at work because of this lack of understanding and knowledge around this disease that I felt so uncomfortable there, and I felt like I needed to leave that environment. I was stressed, I was upset, I felt uncomfortable talking about my own illness that I already was struggling to deal with. And life for me is just too short to put up with that sort of negativity, so I just decided to remove myself from that situation. And I do understand the lack of understanding around this illness because, yeah, I look completely normal. People don't see my worst days. They don't see the days where I'm so ill that I had to go to A&E. I'm so ill that I literally have blood leaking from my backside. It's extremely horrible. It's extremely painful. And I don't publicise that part of my life because it's very personal. I know I'm doing this now, but that's because I want to raise awareness. I want people to know how this can be, and I don't even have the worst side of this condition. Some people are hospitalized with this condition. Some people have their bowels removed because of this condition and live with a stoma bag. If people were to see photos of what my bowels looked like from my colonoscopies and flexible sigmoidoscopies compared to a normal colon, they would probably never question me again because it is very disgusting. And like I said, I don't even have the most severe case of this. It's still horrible, but that's just a little too personal to share. I'm not going to put photos of inside my butt on the internet. Number 4 is quite similar to number 3 in that it is an invisible illness. As I've already discussed, I look okay. I look like a normal person. I look like I have nothing wrong with me on a day-to-day basis. I don't walk around with the bruises from my endless blood tests and from my cannulas out of my arms. When I am bruised, I tend to cover them up. I can't even leave my bed on my worst days, so of course people do not see how it physically affects me. My social media is filled with positivity, smiles, and all my best memories because I don't want to fill my social media with how ill I am and how much pain I'm in that day and how much blood is in the toilet that day. I think going to a disabled toilet is probably the worst bit for me. A lot of the time I choose to use a disabled toilet, or sorry, we should be saying accessible toilet now, because using the toilet is extremely painful for me compared to other people. I do worry leaving an accessible toilet about what people are going to think seeing someone like me walking out of a toilet. I'm not in a wheelchair, I don't look physically ill. I'm very pleased that no one's actually said anything to me so far, but I have seen on some online forums that people have been confronted for using an accessible toilet, and that scares me a little bit, but I think when it comes to it I'll just explain what's wrong and hopefully there'll be a bit more understanding. Number 5 has got to be maybe the most irritating one for me, and that's when people suggest diet. While diet is a factor in health in general, it's very important that everyone does try to eat a healthy diet as best as they can. Unfortunately for me, if I was to try and eat a healthy diet, that is not going to cure my incurable autoimmune disease. In fact, a lot of the healthy foods that people do suggest to me are ones that I physically can't eat because they will make me worse. I have to eat a low fibre, low residue diet because of the damage inside my intestines and my colon. Things like fruit, veg, nuts, in a way would cut into the damage inside my colon and make my condition worse and give me more pain. Maybe when I go into remission I will be able to eat those foods again. I used to eat those foods completely fine and now I find they make me worse. It's really upsetting that I can't even eat Butterkiss toffee popcorn anymore. That used to be one of my favourite things in the world, and now corn is terrible for my colon. I tend to live off chicken, rice, pizza, general unhealthy foods, but that's because they don't irritate my colon. And although for other people that's unhealthy, for me that at the moment that's the best thing that I can eat, and at least I'm still able to eat. Number 6 is toilets. I kind of touched on this a little bit before. Using the toilet is a huge fear of mine, especially in public. If I go somewhere, I need to make sure a toilet is close by. That's because one of my symptoms is urgency. And I don't mean a little bit of diarrhea kind of urgency, you know, you've got a bug and you need to go to the toilet often. With this condition, it is severe urgency, it is severe pain, it's intense, you have accidents, you literally leak blood from your backside. It's horrible. You get a fever, you feel dizzy, you feel like you're going to pass out. And for me, using a public toilet can be quite scary, especially on my worst days. It's extremely painful using the toilet because my insides are ulcerated, they're inflamed, they're swollen, they're damaged, some parts are scarred. This means using the toilet in peace is an absolute godsend. That's why I'm really pleased that we have accessible toilets that are maybe a little bit more private. I do own a radar key, and I also have a really cool card that I got sent from Crohn's and Colitis UK when I signed up to their website that says urgent, can't wait, and if I'm in an emergency and I can't hold in going to the toilet, I can go into a shop and ask if I can use their staff toilet. Again, that kind of comes down to awareness and understanding, and they are within their right to refuse me using their toilet for safety reasons and safeguarding reasons, so I've never actually needed to do that so far, but I would hope that I would be allowed to use their toilet. Number 7 is fear of the condition worsening. I am so lucky that when I was first diagnosed it was considered moderate, and from changing medications and trying different things, a year later my condition has now gone down to mild. I am so pleased with that. I'm not in remission, I might not achieve remission, but for me the fear that at any point it could get worse. At any point this condition could get so bad that I need emergency surgery. In worst case scenarios, this condition leads to toxic megacolon, bowel perforation, bowel cancer. Lots of people with Crohn's and colitis have to have surgery to remove parts of their bowel or even their whole bowel and live with a stoma bag. But for me, I'm scared of that happening to me. I can't explain why. I think it's just scary that one day I might have to have surgery to have my bowel removed. After diagnosis, I also found out that my grandfather, who passed away with bowel cancer at the age of 59 when I was young, who had a stoma bag, had been battling with bowel problems for most of his life. It's very likely that he had the same condition as me, and for me that really scares me that I could end up the same way. It doesn't matter that people say it might never happen to you, a percentage of people get the worst case scenario, just the thought that there is a small percentage that it could happen and that I do already have this condition, it's just, it freaks me out. It does freak me out, I'm not gonna lie. Number 8 is having to fit in an unreal amount of hospital appointments, GP appointments and other kinds of referrals. This was something else that made work quite difficult. In my old job, I was so lucky that my boss was brilliant. She was there when I was getting diagnosed and she was very lenient with my appointments. In the job after that, which I've already discussed, I felt like I needed to leave. It was difficult. I had to take in some very personal letters with private and confidential information on it to prove that I had appointments and to prove what was going on, because I felt like they didn't believe me. I have to have GP appointments quite regularly for prescription changes, repeat prescriptions, and keeping them up to date on what's going on with my condition. I have to have regular outpatient appointments with my specialist GI consultant roughly every 6 to 8 weeks at the moment, and I also have emergency contact deals for him and my specialist IBD nurse in case I need it, in case my condition worsens suddenly. They hope that if I go into remission that I would only need outpatient appointments every 6 to 12 months, which I really hope would happen. And that's not to mention other appointments. I've had to have 3 scope tests, so that's 2 flexible sigmoidoscopies and a colonoscopy within the space of 10 months. And every time I had one, that's at least 2 days off work because of preparation and also because I get sedated because of the pain, so I'm not allowed to work for 24 hours afterwards. Also, I've had referrals to other departments because of joint pain. I had an MRI scan. And also I've had cognitive behavioural therapy weekly, which I don't have anymore at the moment. And that was related to anxiety, stress and depression, not only around my condition but in general. I struggle with GAD. GAD is generalised anxiety disorder, if you didn't know. Number 9 is paying for prescriptions. When I was first diagnosed, I didn't know something called a prepayment card existed. So within the space of about 4 months, I had spent over £100 on different medications, because during my early diagnosis I was trying a lot of different things that didn't work at the time to find the best medication for me. And because I was still working part-time, I didn't get any help with medication. Ice cream van. Please stop. Can you hear that ice cream van? Has it stopped? The prepayment card helps, but it's still a lot of money considering I'm likely to be on medication for the rest of my life. If I was out of work completely and on benefits, or if I got personal and independent payment, which is for disability, then I would obviously get medication for free, but I don't. Number 10 is probably the worst one for me, and for me that has got to be that it's lifelong. It's incurable. It is never going to go away. I will always have ulcerative colitis. While I might go into remission, which I haven't achieved yet, I might not achieve for a long time, and I might not get symptoms for a while because of remission, it's always going to be lurking in the background. At any point I could get ill again, at any point it could get worse. I did find it harder when I was first diagnosed, finding out that you have a condition that is very likely to not go away ever in your whole life. But I've learnt to deal with this a bit better and cope with the anxiety, stress and depression with medication, therapy, the support of my friends and family. My consultant and my GP have been absolutely brilliant in helping me through this. They understand how it affects your day-to-day life even when you do have it mild, and I feel a lot more confident talking about it with my friends and family, talking about it openly, posting some things on social media. Ice cream van. I am hopeful that I will get remission soon, because like I said before, it was moderate and now it's mild, and I'm hoping that it will improve further. While I might not ever achieve remission, I'm hoping that it will stay mild for at least a long time. I have seen online that people can get a good few years out of remission, and some people have even had 10 years out of remission, so I'm feeling really hopeful for that. Thank you so much for watching this. Please do like this video and share it around. It would be really good to raise more awareness about this condition. If you suffer with ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, I hope this video has helped you just to know that someone else is going through something similar. I understand that a lot of people do have it worse than me, and I do commend those people that deal with that on a day-to-day basis. And I also want to thank my friends and family for being so amazing for me, and also for my boss at the time when I was going through the diagnosis, and my colleagues at the time for being so amazing. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.